What's going on, y'all? Today I'm bringing you guys my first run review on the New Balance Rebel V5. So let's get right into it. Actually, before we get right into it, I do want to note that I actually have ran twice in the New Balance Rebel V5s already. So I've ran a 2 mile shorter, like easy run, recovery run, and then I have ran a 16 mile long run in this shoe, kind of at a little bit above marathon pace. So that's kind of, I guess, to give you guys a little bit of context. So I guess my first run review is 18 miles in already. I'll probably do the full review pretty shortly after because I feel like I have a good gauge of what this shoe kind of feels like now, and also like I'll throw in different types of runs at the shoe before I do the full review. So just wanted to get that out there. So starting off with the outsole, as you can see, we have a kind of a herringbone or like a storytelling traction pattern. Obviously, the black parts of this outsole are the more durable rubber, and then the white parts of this outsole are just the midsole. So I honestly thought that this traction pattern was actually very, very effective, and the rubber that they use on the outsole seems to be pretty sticky, and it is pretty thick on the bottom of the outs or on the bottom of the midsole. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but there is some depth to it, and I just like the way that it looks. I just feel like I'm getting feelings that this shoe will last kind of a long time, as well as you're going to get definitely really good traction. So on the 16-mile long run, I did run it on the beach, so it's kind of with the caveat that when there's sand on the road, it's really hard to get really good traction out of any shoe. So I was slipping a little bit, but when I was doing my easy 2 mile run, I just did it around the neighborhood, and it was sticking like glue. So I do think that this traction pattern is going to perform very well, as well as it's going to last a long time. But that's just my hypothesis from the first two runs. So moving on to the cushion setup of the New Balance Rebel V5. This is the part where I didn't like it last year. I thought that the foam was kind of just whatever. But this year, I do think that either they changed the foam or they kind of added more stack. I believe they did also add more stack. I'll put the specs right here of the New Balance Fuel Cell midsole. I mean, they call it Fuel Cell, but I don't exactly know if it's the same fuel cell that they use in their race day shoes or their super trainers because they all feel different. So they did have a higher stack in this shoe for this year, and I believe it's a 6 millimeter heel to toe drop versus the 4 millimeter heel to toe drop from last year's model, which I personally didn't really like. Just the whole shoe in general last year I didn't like. So I was a little bit skeptical kind of to try this one out, but I do feel like this shoe is a lot better than last year's model. I thought that they fixed the fit as well as the cushion setup, but I'm slowly getting into that. So the cushion setup is kind of like light and airy is the best way I would describe it. It's very cushioned when you are running slower runs or shorter runs. Like my 2 mile run, I felt like this was almost a max cushion shoe because it was so soft and it did feel like there was a lot under my foot. I felt very protected, and I still got a little bit of ground feel from it, which was really nice. Now, on my long run, which is my second run in the shoe, I did test the shoe's impact protection to its capabilities and also just to see how the foam would hold up after longer runs, because I do think that even though New Balance calls this fuel cell, it does feel kind of like a softer EVA, and I don't exactly know, or I didn't know at the time how it would hold up on a long run, if it would kind of bottom out by the end of my long run. So I did want to take it on a long run. I do feel like my body was a little bit more sore after running in this shoe versus maybe other shoes for my long run. So not exactly sure if that's me or the cushion setup, but just something to note. And the cushion actually performed decently well on the long run. It was very comfortable. The cushion kind of did flatten out just a touch, and it got lower to the ground towards the end of the run. I don't know if that's just like me overthinking it running in the shoe, but I did notice that. And it was honestly comfortable for the majority of the long run. I did run a little bit slower than my marathon pace on this long run, so I wasn't really blazing in the shoe, but I also wasn't running super slow for me in the shoe on that long run. And honestly, the cushion setup felt pretty good. It was pretty lightweight, comfortable. There was a lot of good compression. It felt soft on foot, but I will say that maybe the impact protection isn't the best, as my body was pretty sore afterwards. I did feel like there was a little bit of pain in my knee, but again, see, that could be just me and not the shoe. But I do feel like this foam just doesn't have that like that weight or that feel of I don't know exactly know how to describe it, of like a premium foam. It feels kind of like light and airy, which I think when you're walking around or running really slow or running shorter runs, it works perfectly fine. But I really felt like I tested it on that long run, and the fact that my body was so sore after and my knee was hurting a little bit, which I haven't really experienced in any other shoe, I do feel like maybe I did tap into the limits, at least my limits in this shoe for lengthwise or for the amount of miles that I would personally want to run in this setup. But it overall was very comfortable. I mean, this is a first impressions technically, so I'm not going to go too deep into it, even though I have already. But it was comfortable. It was light, airy, definitely on the softer side. Not really a responsive shoe. It was maybe responsive in the forefoot in the sense of it being dense towards the end of my long run, and it just didn't really compress anymore. So I just kind of felt the ground, or I felt like a padding and then the ground. So it just felt like very firm in the forefoot. So I did like that it wasn't like I wasn't sinking into the shoe at any time. If anything, the foam would just compress pretty quickly, and then it became really dense in the forefoot. So it didn't keep me from running any faster in the shoe. But impact protection, I will still kind of test over the next couple days, just to make sure that I have kind of like all my articulated thoughts together when it comes to the cushion setup. But overall, it just doesn't feel like it's a super premium foam that's gonna help you train longer or whatever. It just definitely feels a little bit on the cheaper side, but also like I don't want to call it cheap, you know what I mean? Like it just doesn't feel like some of the other shoes that I've been running in. And um yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that because I'll let you guys know in the full review if that stands true or not. So overall, the cushion setup was good. I would say that maybe on shorter runs, maybe like 13 miles or 10 miles and below, you're gonna be perfectly fine with this setup. If anything, it feels really nice when you're running a little bit slower too. And when you're running on shorter runs, it feels phenomenal, at least right now. So cushion setup, good to go. Definitely better than last year's. Now moving on to the fit and the upper, that's where I had the most problems with last year's model, the New Balance Rebel V4. I just felt like the volume in the forefoot was just way too big. It also felt like it ran a touch short. But this year with the Rebel V5, I feel like they definitely dialed in the fit a little bit better. Now, I'm not going to say that it has like a lot less volume in the forefoot. I still think that this is very wide footer friendly of a shoe. I personally have a wider foot, and I personally really like the fit of this shoe. It does have a little bit more volume, and it does have a pretty wide base. So my pinky toe had plenty of room to breathe, and I did feel like my foot moved around a little bit in the shoe because of that extra volume, but it was nowhere near as much as last year's model in my opinion or in my experience. So I definitely like that there was a little bit of volume so that my toes could kind of like breathe while I was running, especially on that long run, but also not enough volume where my foot was just going crazy in the shoe, and I just felt like it was way too big of a shoe for me. Lengthwise also, I feel like this shoe also ran more true to size than last year's model. Now when it comes to the upper, they do have a phantom fit upper. It's kind of similar to last year's model as well, but I guess it feels a little bit more like knitted, or I don't exactly know. Last year it felt like a foam upper, like there were like foam cutouts and stuff, but this year it feels more of like a synthetic mesh. And honestly, I really like the upper. It feels really lightweight. It feels breathable, but I don't exactly know if it's the most breathable. I didn't really personally feel like too much ventilation in the shoe while I was running in it. But I do really like the materials on the shoe. It's very comfortable, very lightweight, extremely lightweight, I will say. And the ventilation was okay. I think it could be better. The tongue is kind of like a knitted material, which I personally, I'm always a fan of knitted materials. And also it is gusseted. And the heel lockdown and the laces were definitely good. The laces were long enough to do the runner's loop, which I personally am a fan of, and heel lockdown was perfectly good. So overall, the upper and the fit was definitely light years better than last year's model, and overall, it just has been performing very well so far. So overall, this seems like a promising daily trainer. I don't exactly know if it's going to be like a daily trainer of the year for me, but I am curious to kind of put more miles on the shoe, and then I will give you guys my conclusive full review kind of with a better formulated opinion on the cushion setup. So yeah, if you're thinking about the New Balance Rebel V5 and you can wait like a couple days or maybe a week for me to get my final thoughts on the shoe, then yeah, go for it. But if you're kind of on the fence or like you're already thinking about buying the shoe, I think you will enjoy the shoe. Just keep in mind what I said about the cushion setup, especially if you're a heavier runner like myself, and maybe if you prefer prefer more firm setups or more bouncy setups, there probably are better options than this one out here. So this is priced at $140. So actually now it's one of the cheaper daily trainers out on the market because now all of them have been raised to 145 or 150. So kudos to New Balance for keeping the price at 140, even though I still think 140 is kind of high. But yeah, that's gonna pretty much wrap up my first run review, technically first 2 run review in the New Balance Rebel V5. Excited to put more miles on the shoe and excited to give you guys my final thoughts on the shoe in a couple days to maybe a week. So give me some time. All right. So with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.